Big decisions for Jerry Jones to make in the last 7 months. In September, he gave Zeke Elliott a 6-year, $90 million deal. That ended Zeke's holdout. That came just 2 weeks after Jerry wrote another big check. That one was to linebacker Jalen Smith, who got a 5-year extension worth $64 million. Now, fast forward to last week. Cowboys made a new proposal to Dak Prescott. The offer that was on the table before that was worth $33 million per season and more than $100 million guaranteed. And Dak is, of course, not the only notable free agent for Dallas right now. Amari Cooper and cornerback Byron Jones also set to test free agency when the new league year begins next Wednesday. And so I feel like there's been a lot of conversation here, and the franchise tag deadline is now the day after tomorrow, Diana. So where do we stand as far as the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, and a new deal?
Well, let's preface this with the CBA situation as well, right? Because that date could get moved to Saturday in terms of the franchise tag deadline. So that could...
They could still move that, you're saying?
They could, yes. So this is hovering over the situation, okay, which is what we need to wait and see and how this plays out. But from what I can gather, both sides want to get this deal done, meaning a long-term deal between Dak and the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't spoken in the last few days. We saw those numbers that ESPN is reporting at the $33 million, and right now it seems that that's the number that Dak is not happy with. Whether or not the Dallas Cowboys come back with a higher number, we're just going to have to wait and see. But if you were to ask me, do I think this deal is going to get done? I do. It feels like things are moving in the right direction.
And if you look at this, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, Zeke Elliott, Lyle Collins, Zach Martin, $217 million guaranteed. Jerry loves to pay his guys. He loves to pay the stars. That's why I think you're going to look at this. Amari Cooper probably eventually gets done, and I think Dak ultimately gets done soon. He's not going to offer him $40 million right off the jump. Dak had to ask for that. So there's got to be a little bit of wiggle room. There's got to be some play here to allow Dak to kind of increase this so we can talk about it every day and so that he can make it feel like it was a bargain, and then they can come together and say, listen, we got this done. You got the $34 million you wanted, and you're probably going to get the most guaranteed money in NFL history.
Mm-hmm. Bob, you said two things, but those two statements back to back you said might contradict yourself. You said Gary loves to pay his guys and Gary loves to pay the stars. Those two statements aren't mutually exclusive, because I think over time we've seen not every star for the Dallas Cowboys has been one of Jerry's guys, and I think that's the problem. I go back to DeMarco Murray, NFL rushing leader. He was a star. He was the star of the NFL at that time in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Cowboys didn't pay him. Instead, they let the Eagles, a division rival, come in and outbid him. So Dak Prescott, I think he will get paid eventually, but he might get tagged prior to getting paid.
Here's one of the things that you forget. DeMarco Murray, remember what round he was drafted in?
Third round.
Third round pick. Zeke Elliott, first round. Like, those are his guys. His guys, the high profile star guys.
So you're saying Dak is one of his guys? Because I'm saying that I don't think Dak is.
I think he ultimately is, because he plays the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and people widely acknowledge that might be the most prestigious position in all of sports.
Yeah. What about Amari Cooper's deal, though?
Well, a lot of it goes into play with what they decide to do with Dak. But in terms of Amari's free agent market, back to the word robust, there are a lot of teams interested in Amari Cooper. We're talking about the Bills, the Washington Redskins. These are teams who would be all in on him, but I believe that he will be back with the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, so in a lot of different ways, and they'll probably wind up losing Byron Jones as a result of all of this. So a lot of deals that maybe could have been done in different timing has left Dallas in sort of a precarious position. Now, you heard Diana mention that the deadline for players to vote on the new collective bargaining agreement was pushed back yesterday. Somewhat surprisingly, it was originally midnight Thursday night. Now it's been pushed back to Saturday night. So they've given players 48 extra hours to cast their vote. Sam Acho, which is Manny Acho's brother, is on the executive committee of the Players Association, and he posted this video in which he tries to explain what he thinks of the deal.
The fact of the matter is that this is both a good deal and a not so good deal, depending on what kind of player you are. 65% of players in the NFL last year made minimum salaries. So when you talk about a 20% increase effectively year over year in exchange for one extra game, that's a really good deal. These are the kind of players that get excited about a fourth preseason game, because that's another chance for them to show the coaches and the team their value. These are also the players that get excited about an extra playoff game, because for them, that's a pay raise rather than a pay cut. But there's a different kind of player that this deal isn't as appealing to, and that's the superstar player. Here's why. Franchise tags are still in place. If you look at last year, 111 players were restricted in some way, shape, or form. That's 111 out of 1,900. It's about half of 1%. Those players are going to love this deal. That franchise tag and the transition tag restricts them from free agency. Also, you look at the fifth-year option, which affects first-round picks. 32 first-round picks aren't going to like that deal. But let's not be fooled. This deal is a really good deal for a majority of NFL players who, like most Americans who work, get paid more if you play more. This deal eliminates superstar economics, and it brings everyone up with a tidal wave.
All right, so let's start, Manny Acho, with you, Emmanuel Acho. That's your brother talking there, and I think he was here in our studio recently, and now in that video, he explains this in a way that I think everyone can understand it better than anyone else I've heard doing so far. What do you think he senses about the way this vote is going to go?
It's completely up in the air. Right now, the players and I think the CBA, it looks like everything's in complete pandemonium. I mean, you have players who are suing the NFLPA, another player that's running for president. You have other players who want to re-vote. Right now, everybody is torn because they think that one deal can service all, but they can't. Greeny, I remember a time I was talking to a lawyer when I was in a negotiation once, and he reminded me this. He said, 1% of 100 is greater than 100% of 0. And that's what these players need to remember. Like, they're arguing over a percent, which is a big deal. But if you never get to that number anyway, there is going to be an issue. And right now, the players are showing they're completely disunified.
Well, and Bobby, when you think about where the players may be in all of this, and some of the people that you've talked to through this time, they probably feel like if they say no, the owners are going to come back with a better offer. Is that, though, the reality from what you know?
I think when guys look at this, you feel like they have a lot of leverage right now because they came to the owners came to the players. We have this deal, looks pretty good. And they felt like maybe in 2011 you got to take advantage of a little bit. And the reality is if you say no, I don't think the owners are going to come back with a better deal. And I think that that's something that some of the executive committee and some of the representatives have tried to push down. But then you have some of the star players saying, hey, no, we can push back on this. We can take this to the limit. But the reality is, and Mike's been covering the NFL for a long time, there has never been a fully successful labor stoppage for the players. Once it gets to that point, guys begin to break ranks, and it's not going to happen.
Not in this sport, there hasn't. There have been in other sports. In baseball, for example, it is the reason their union is so powerful because they stick together and the football players do not. Diana, the first question I'm sure everyone had yesterday when we saw this deadline get pushed back was, what should we read into that? Why did they have to push it back 2 days?
Well, at this point right now, it just seems that there's so much conflict within, even just talking to players yesterday about, trying to get a gauge. They're asking the media more questions right now about what's going on. The players are asking us to sort of find out what's happening, what's going on. It just seems like there's not enough information. Your brother did a great job of breaking it down, but it just seems there's a lot of confusion at this point, which is why so many players don't really know what they want to do.
Well, there's confusion because the players don't realize how big a deal it is. Now I'm talking about the vast majority of the players. Remember, every rep gets to call their team and kind of have a conference call. I'm told that there are, 6, 8, 10 guys on some of these conference calls. Remember, the roster is comprised of 63 individuals, so you're talking 10% roughly. This is the biggest deal for NFL players because this will likely lead to a work stoppage, which I said, whether it's a strike or whether it's a lockout. I think if this deal does not pass, we're on the verge of a work stoppage, and that affects you, the NFL fan.
And the one thing that I do have confidence in when I look at this, because there's a lot of reasons not to. When you're pushing the deadline back, you mentioned changing votes, players suing their own players association. When I look at this is, hey, they've just put out, can we have a list of what was in 2011, and can we have a list of the CBA now in 2020 so we can compare them as players and look at this as an apples-to-apples comparison. And I think when most of the players do this, the rank and file, if you will, they'll look at that and say, this is a better deal. Correct. Let's move forward.
I think to me this is, as much as anything, a referendum on the confidence the players have in the leadership of their union. If you trust them and they're telling you this is the best deal we're going to get, then you vote yes. I think a lot of players may not have that level of trust, and that is where we find ourselves with this problem. All right, Laura, let's get up.
Who right now is still their quarterback.
Well, here's the thing. Bruce Arians is aware that his offense can be very complicated, and we've heard it a million times. It's the Bruce Arians way.
I like it better when you say it, though. Yeah. It's not like no risk it, no biscuit.
I don't say it as exciting. He's like no risk it, no biscuit, whatever. His accent's like Pittsburgh, Ohio. It's all over the place. Mine is unfortunately New Jersey. I think he understands his offense is difficult to run, and he's willing to take those risks. That's the way Bruce likes to run it. So while we sit back and go, oh, he throws so many interceptions, he throws so many picks, he's got to take care of the ball better. Look at all the other quarterbacks Bruce has coached. They've thrown a lot of interceptions themselves. When I reached out to sources there in Tampa Bay about the future of Jameis, as early as yesterday, the thought is we're just going to wait and see. And I do think this Brady factor is going to, or Brady's decision is going to be a factor on what they do with Jameis. That Bruce Arians is very clear cut. There's not a lot of filter there when you ask him anything. And the fact that he hasn't given a direct quote that I'm ready to move on tells you that he still perhaps maybe wants to make this work.
You know what? Because we haven't looked at this side of the coin. How about Bruce Arians being at fault for some of Jameis's interceptions? I just looked at Carson Palmer, his first year under Bruce Arians. He had the most interceptions he ever had with 22. Yeah. Carson Palmer, a 13-plus year NFL veteran who had a phenomenal career. So while we do put so much of the blame on Jameis, Bruce Arians' offense, which is just no risk it, no biscuit, is going to lead to risk it.
I got to say, I did not expect us to say biscuit this many times only 15 minutes into the show this morning. We're